All right, in this video I'm going to do some more tweaks, but I really like this camera angle. I need to change some of the lighting a little bit, but we're going to do some tweaks and then we're going to go into our render settings, and hopefully this will be the final iteration of this when we're done. So the first thing I want to do, as I said, I really like this camera setting, or this camera angle. So I'm going to go to View, Bookmarks, and go to Edit Bookmarks, and I'm going to add a camera view. So New Bookmark, Camera View 2. So that way I can always snap back to this camera view. The other thing I want to do is I want to be able to sort of navigate around in the scene and move things around while staying in this render view. So I'm going to go to Panels, Perspective, and New Perspective. And I want to make sure that in my render view here that this perspective shape is still there. So that way it's always going to render that camera. But now, as you can see, I have another camera that I can sort of move around, navigate around without editing this too much. So the first thing that I'm noticing from this angle is that I have too much of a highlight here in this glass. So I want to try to get rid of that, and I'm pretty sure it's this light right here. So I could try just moving that light. And that may get rid of it. We could just try deleting it. And that, I'm not sure if I like that or not. I think I like it better with that light in there. So I'll bring that back. I think maybe we can drop the intensity of it. I can also do some light linking. So to light link something, say I like the way it affects everything else but this object right here. So what I can do is I can go into, let's bring our intensity back up. I think it was at 100. So what I can do to unlink it from this object is I'm going to go to Display, let's see, Windows, General Editors, somewhere in here we should see rendering editors. So thinking it would be under general editors. So maybe it's the light editor, and this is obviously a new feature in this version of Maya. It used to be light linking. But I think if I bring up this light editor, maybe somewhere in here we can, so that's going to be our area light shape 1. So that's area light 1. Yep, I don't think that's it. Relationship editors, that's where it is. Sorry about that. So Window, Relationship Editors, light linking. And we will do object centric. So let's first select that object. And then we're going to go to Windows, Relationship Editors, light linking, object centric. And that object is I believe it's the SVG mesh shape 2. Let me make sure, yep, I have that selected. So here we can do the SVG mesh 2, and we can look at our lights. And I can unlink it from that light. Doesn't look like that worked. Let me restart the renderer and see. Yeah, so it did work actually. So that looks good. I like the way that that's turning out. Now we can see that word "the" a lot better. So that issue is solved. So the next thing I want to do is overall, I want to give this more space. So these objects are really close to each other. So I want to give this more visual space. And I also want to move my objects further away from the wall a little bit, with the exception of my like neon lights. I like where they are. So I'm going to grab these, just move them forward a little bit because I want to be able to see a little bit of a shadow behind them. So kind of, you know, they're not on the wall, they're just kind of floating just beyond the wall. And then I want to space these out a little bit. Now for this shape, it's going to be a little bit of a challenge because they are considered one shape. So for us to kind of spread them out a little bit is going to be kind of a different technique than what we would normally use. So I'll start by just moving this one kind of away. And I want to move this guy this way a little bit too, so I want to make sure it's got some room. And then what I'm going to do for this guy is I'm going to go to face mode, and I'm just going to click on one of those faces, and I'm going to hit shift. I'm not really sure what the name of the key is, but it's basically the key to the left of the question mark. So if I hold down shift, those are shrink and grow selection. So I can hit the one on the right, it's like a little arrow key, and I'm just going to keep hitting that until I have that entire object selected in face mode. And I think that should be pretty close to, yeah, so that looks like that whole guy is selected. And now I can just move those faces. For some reason, those aren't moving, so maybe I haven't finished that whole grow selection. Let's keep hitting that. So yeah, so now that looks good. So now I can just move these guys a little bit further away. I'll take these guys, move them this way a little bit more. And as far as visual space goes, I think, you know, of course it's going to look a little too separated from this angle, but we're looking at it from our perspective, so we wanted to give it sort of visual space from that perspective. So something like that actually looks pretty good. So that's, you know, that's one thing that I wanted to fix. The next thing I wanted to fix is the fact that these guys are casting a shadow. I'm not sure if that looks completely realistic. I'm assuming that they cast a shadow because they're being read as an object and not something that's emitting light, or that the fact that maybe the light being emitted around them is more than the light that they're giving off. So, but I want to see if I can get them to not cast a shadow and just kind of see how that looks. And I think this guy should be, these two should be a little bit more. Yeah. So we're going to select them. We're going to look for their shape node and go to render stats. And on one of these, we need to turn off cast shadows. We may have to rebuild our render. So it doesn't look like that's working. So let's go down to Arnold and see if there's any sort of... Here we go. We have a cast shadows here. So let's turn off the cast shadows. There, and let's also turn it off in these other guys. So still doesn't seem to be emitting, or it still doesn't seem to not cast those shadows. So the other thing we could try is going to Arnold and let's try turning off opaque, and we will rebuild that render. So nope, still shadows there. Yeah, I was hoping that would work, but it doesn't seem to be working. Let's maybe drop the shadow density down. No, that's not working either. So maybe for now that's just something we're going to have to deal with, is the fact that those guys are casting shadows. This is more of the light setting, so the light's going to cast shadows, I think. But we don't want those objects to cast shadows, so that may be again, we may have to do some clever light linking or something, but I think really we're just going to have to deal with having those shadows there. So yeah, so the other thing, before we move on to like our final render, we can jump over into our render settings. And currently I'm set to render man. This should be Arnold. The fact that we're using Arnold render view, I think this doesn't matter because this is directly connected to Arnold. But from here we want to go to Arnold renderer, we want to go to environment, and we can add a few different environmental effects. If I go to background and add a sky shader or physical sky shader, we're going to get sort of like a sky in the background. So you see that we have a horizon line there. So that's going to give us a little bit of reflection in this object. It's not really going to contribute to our light, but it will contribute to our reflection. So we can try, that's the physical light, we can break that and maybe try just like the sky, create sky shader, or we could do AI physical sky. Pretty sure that's what that did. So sky shader, AI sky, that's definitely not what we want. We can bring the intensity way down if we need to. Ultimately, that might not be something we want anyway. So if we break that again and we do the AI physical sky, we can do some things like we can control the time of day, the azimuth and intensity, or the elevation is basically how high the sun is in the sky, and the azimuth is the direction it is. So as I change that, so like a noon, if I want sort of just like a night thing, I'll put both of those at 0, and the but we still get kind of a little bit of reflection in our 3 there. So we could try that. That may give us a different result. Another really cool thing we can do in here, if we break that, we can add atmospheres. So I can add a volume scattering effect. So if I do that, by default your density is 0. If I create that, this is going to go really high really quickly. So if I just crank it up, you know, it's going to go white. But if I bring this way down, maybe 0.001, it's going to give us a little bit of a foggy effect. Let's try 0.005, and let's see if we can, maybe some of these other settings like attenuation, we'll bring that down a little bit. We can also bring the color down and bring the density up. So again, this is going to add to render time, but it gives us kind of a cool foggy looking effect in our scene. Which I kind of like, so I think I might try to keep that in there. Samples is just going to be how the quality of that. So the higher that is, the higher quality your fog is going to be. And then we can also always do stuff in post in Photoshop to like make this look like it's glowing a little bit more. So beyond that, if we look back into our camera settings, we have things like depth of field that we can turn on. So if I go down to my Arnold tab here, I have a enable depth of field. So if I turn that on, the way this works is your focus distance is where we're going to focus in, obviously, and then your aperture size and all of these others are going to be how much it blurs away. So if I want to focus on my 3 here, I have this little heads up display, and that's going to be under display, heads up display, object details. So if I click that, it's going to show me how far away it is from my camera, and now realize that I'm not using the same camera here. So this is for my current active camera. So if I go to panels perspective, my original perspective, now I'm 91. So then I can switch back to my perspective 1 and go back to my camera settings. And what I can do is set my focus distance to 91. And then as I increase my aperture size, we should start to see it blurring. It's going to be kind of hard because our scene doesn't have a lot of distance as far as depth goes. So we probably won't see much, but it is a cool effect to add. But for now, I'm going to turn that off because I don't think I need it. And beyond that, I like what I have so far. So I'm just going to go to my render settings again and look at our sampling here. So camera AA, so you have all these samples, and basically by default they're set to 2, and camera AA is 3. So this is basically how many passes our renderer is going to go over this scene. So you'll notice that at some point you see like these little bricks moving around in a circle. And that's what this is. So it basically covers everything a certain amount of time. Now this is a multiplier of this. So currently everything in our scene is going to have 6 passes. So it's going to go over our entire scene 6 times. Now the more it does that, the better looking our render is going to be, the less grainy it's going to be, because every time it's going to sort of fix those little graininess. So the way you can do this is you can either go through and change all of these individually, or you can just change this camera AA. So for example, if I change this camera AA to a value of 4, it would take all these and do 4 or 8 passes total on them. Now if I were to change this guy to 3, then it's going to do 9, because that's going to multiply that. So depending on what you have in your scene, we have a lot of indirect light, so that's these guys. So I definitely want more passes of that. So I can come into volume and indirect, and let's bump that up to something like 5. I have no subsurface scattering, so I'll take that down to 0. I have some refraction, so I'll take that to 5, and I'll put my other guys all up to 5. So basically we're going to get 15 passes for each of those attributes. Now beyond this, I can go in and change my, go to Common tab and go in and change my size, which is what I do want to do, because I want this to render nice and big, high quality, HD 1080. Now this is going to take a long time, so I won't include it in this video. I may just let it go, and then I'll include the final product when it's done. So I'll just let that go. For the most part, that is, that's going to be this tutorial. Again, I'm happy to answer any questions. If you would like me to make supplemental tutorials on showing you how I did anything specific here, or going into more depth about how I've done anything specific, feel free to comment below. Of course, if you've liked this video, please subscribe to my channel. I'm always making more of these, and I'm always trying to find unique topics like this that aren't normally discussed on YouTube or anywhere for that matter, and figuring out how to do it on my own, and then showing you my method or my approach to achieving that. So yeah, I hope you guys have enjoyed this. Please comment, please ask questions, and please, if you, like I said, if there's any other videos you'd like me to make, please let me know.